Hello, dear students. Welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy, the Hindu newspaper analysis. Today is 5th June 2024 and we have few important articles to discuss in this today's lecture. So let's try to discuss all those important articles one by one. And before discussing them, we all knew that there is one practice question for prelims that I've given in previous class. The question was, which of the following rivers of Africa drains into the Mediterranean Sea? So the options given here are Congo River, Niger River, Orang River, and then Nile River. So I've also told you to answer this question in the comment section. So try to answer this question in the comment section, right? So the correct answer for this question is option D, Nile River, and Nile River drains into the Mediterranean Sea. Now see, UPSC has the record or the history of asking questions from African continent, the physical features, especially the rivers. So therefore UPSC has also been asking about the rivers and the mountains and other physical features of African continent, and therefore it is very important to understand the minute details with respect to the physical map of African continent. Now if you carefully look at the map here, the Nile River directly draining into the Mediterranean Sea, right? So it is there are a blue Nile River and a white Nile River, so these two rivers merging and then they are finally draining into the Mediterranean Sea. Now if you look at other important rivers of the African continent, there is a Senegal River which is draining into the Atlantic Ocean, and then the Niger River also. So this Niger River is draining into the Atlantic Ocean, again on the western coast of Africa. And another important river is Congo River. This is also draining into the Atlantic Ocean. So there are several small rivers, for example this Orang River, this is also draining into the Atlantic Ocean. And Limpopo on the other hand, it is draining into the Indian Ocean on the eastern coast, followed by the Zambezi River. So these are important rivers, right? So the Limpopo and Zambezi rivers are draining into the Indian Ocean, and on the other hand the Orang River, Niger River, Congo River and Senegal River are draining into the Atlantic Ocean on the western coast. And this Nile River is one of the longest rivers of the world. It is draining into the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so I hope it is very clear, along with the Nile River and other rivers also. So now today also I have given you a very important practice question. This is with respect to the Nipah virus, and we have also discussed about this Nipah virus in our previous classes. So the question was, consider the following statements. First statement: Nipah virus is a zoonotic virus and that can be transmitted to humans from animals. This is the first statement. And second statement says that fruit bats and pigs are the natural host of this Nipah virus. Third statement: Nipah virus can also be transmitted through contaminated food or directly from human to human. And fourth statement: currently vaccine is available for use in animals, and for people use vaccine is yet to be developed with respect to the Nipah virus. And the directive given here is that how many of the above statements are not correct. Okay, so how many of the above statements are not correct with respect to the Nipah virus? So therefore please go through the options and try to answer this question in the comment section, and I'll provide you the explanation and the correct answer in tomorrow's lecture. So the first article that we are going to start this discussion is with the artificial intelligence. Now artificial intelligence we have discussed several times. It is an emerging technology, and artificial intelligence has a lot of spin-off technologies. And in fact India is one of the potential player in the arena of the artificial intelligence. Now what is the context and why this particular article is being given? So the context is that the transformative potential of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, so they play a very important role in further enhancing India's digital public infrastructure. So India's digital public infrastructure is very important and a very key for a country like ours. So therefore it is said that the transformative potential of artificial intelligence, if we have rightly recognized, it plays a very important role in further strengthening India's digital public infrastructure. Remember, this digital public infrastructure was previously asked in prelims examination and mains examination also, so therefore it is very important. So however, the key focus or the primary focus of artificial intelligence is that how we can expand the reach of artificial intelligence and its efficiency and its user connectivity with respect to the digital public infrastructure. So therefore we must understand, in this particular context, we must understand there are certain issues such as diversity of India's population and even the overcoming current limitations that are with respect to the artificial intelligence and its potential concerns. So apart from that, we should also understand the challenges or the limitations with respect to India's digital public infrastructure and its access to the larger population. Now, what is the role of artificial intelligence in enhancing the digital public infrastructure? So remember, artificial intelligence actually plays a significant role in enhancing the digital public infrastructure, right? So first and foremost application or most important role of artificial intelligence is that it could decentralize the computer power, right? So we can make a shift from the centralized massive data centers. So in fact, there are a lot of private players. All the data that they have collected, they store the data in a centralized data centers. Okay, so these data which is being stored in the massive data centers can be distributed in micro data centers, so using the interoperable protocols that allow for a more efficient and accessible computer power across the country. Now, when we have made a decentralized computer power, so that will be a very important thing and very significant with respect to further enhancing the access and efficiency of computer power across the country. So after that, the artificial intelligence guided innovation is also very important for further enhancing the digital public infrastructure, because now there are a lot of potential players in the artificial intelligence as a technology, and these potential players have been guaranteeing to follow a code of conduct, right? So every organization have their own code of conduct, and these artificial intelligence companies are also guaranteeing their own code of conduct, and innovation can be guided ethically. So their ultimate motive with respect to developing the artificial intelligence technologies is to follow a code of conduct, and the technologies must be complied with the ethics or ethical conduct. So therefore there is no need to wait for the artificial intelligence laws when we talk about the innovation in the area of artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence as of now is not fully understood. So since it is not fully understood, so there is no need for waiting new artificial intelligence laws, and that will help in ensuring responsible development and deployment of artificial intelligence technologies in near future for the benefit of all. So after that, the dynamic adaptability of the artificial intelligence will also help further enhancing the digital public infrastructure. Because if you look at the artificial intelligence, it is not a static technology, rather it is a dynamic technology with a regular changes, and it also has a huge adaptability. So therefore it could adjust the individual preferences and context, make the public services more responsive. Whatever services or services which are being delivered by the artificial intelligence to the larger public, they could be more responsive, and at the same time they are also user-centric. So when they are more responsive and user-centric, they could be able to address the linguistic and cultural diversity of different regions across the country by adapting to those local contexts. Now essentially the benefits of artificial intelligence can be provided to the larger and diverse pool of Indian population. Now what transformative role does artificial intelligence can play in with respect to the digital public infrastructure? First and foremost, it could unbundle the traditional processes. Okay, so when we talk about the artificial intelligence, standardization is actually, or it is at the heart of the digital public infrastructure design. So when we have standardized the use of artificial intelligence technology and innovation, that would ensure services they can reach the largest cross section of the society. Okay, so they can actually reach the wide variety of the population. And apart from that, artificial intelligence can also enhance these standardized solutions also. That further enhances the standardized solutions across a wide spectrum of India's population by enabling the private sector to go for larger innovation to meet the diverse computer requirements and population requirements also. So apart from that, we can also significantly enhance the user interactions. So when we talk about the user interaction with the artificial intelligence and digital public infrastructure, it is very, very important, right? So therefore, artificial intelligence can significantly simplify the complex interaction. See, when the digital public infrastructure or the interactions between individuals and the artificial intelligence has become more and more complex, so its potential to provide benefits to the normal people would be much lesser. So artificial intelligence can significantly simplify these complex interactions. So how it can simplify these interactions? Through intuitive and conversational interfaces. So through these intuitive and conversational interfaces, it would make it further easier for the users to engage with technology without needing extensive digital skills. So even if, for example, in rural areas, the problem is the digital divide is a problem. Okay, so not just in rural areas, but across different social groups and different regions, digital divide is a problem, and this digital divide problem can be addressed by the effective use of artificial intelligence, and that will have a more important implications with respect to further enhancing the interface between the individuals and the digital public infrastructure. So when we talk about one important case study with respect to the digital public infrastructure, Setus is a personal financial management app. So this is a personal financial management app, and this particular app actually integrates WhatsApp, and it also demonstrates the artificial intelligence technologies to offer personalized financial advice through a familiar and user-friendly platforms, and this would further enhances the user experience and even the accessibility also. So this kind of a transformative role that artificial intelligence can play with respect to further enhancing the digital public infrastructure. So however, it is not free from the challenges. There are a lot of policy implications also when we talk about the artificial intelligence and further enhancing its role in the digital public infrastructure. So first and foremost, we need to talk about the standardization versus diversity. So should we prioritize the standardization of artificial intelligence models, or should we go for the diversity to address the needs of the diverse sections of the societies? So however, each have their own benefits and the pros and cons, right? So when we talk about the standardization of artificial intelligence models, so that has allowed digital public infrastructure to scale itself, and in fact it often sacrifices the variability. The standardization sacrifices the variability and diversity. However, artificial intelligence can actually help bridge this gap. So the gap is between standardization and diversity with respect to the digital public infrastructure by bringing variety to the standardized solutions. And after that, we need to talk about the integration with the existing systems. Now, when we develop any of these artificial intelligent technologies, we need to integrate those technologies and innovative methods within the artificial intelligence with existing digital public infrastructure. Okay, so such as, for example, the account aggregator system. So this actually helps or showcases its potential to ensure the current services, and at the same time it also highlights the need for a seamless integration between a wide variety of services which are being provided here. Okay, so after that, the inclusivity and scalability of the artificial intelligence and domestic digital public infrastructure is very, very important. Now when we talk about the inclusivity, it should be accessible for everyone irrespective of social, regional, linguistic differences. Okay, so there should not be any disparities. So the artificial intelligence powered or enhanced digital public infrastructure solutions, they remain inclusive, and the scalability of these AI enhanced DPI solutions are very, very important here. So artificial intelligence has a wide scope for its adaptability to individual context, and it can also maintain the scalability, and that can help achieve this balance between inclusivity and at the same time the scalability of the AI enhanced DPI solutions. So that's all about the artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence is a very important topic. So therefore, there is a probability that you may get questions on this. And after that we need to talk about this global soil partnership program. So what was this global soil partnership program? So why it was launched and what is its objective? So we'll discuss this in a very brief manner. So context is that recently global soil partnership assembly was discussed how to meet the ambitious and urgent target of improving and maintaining the health of at least 50% of world soils by 2030. Okay, see, soil degradation is one of the main challenge that we have been facing. So in order to meet the degradation of soils or soil pollution, so this soil partnership assembly has been launched. Okay, so this soil partnership assembly focus is to meet the ambitious and urgent target of improving and maintaining the health of at least 50% of the world's soils by the year 2030. So when we talk about the soil map of India, so in India, the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, right? So the Indian Council of Agriculture Research has classified the Indian soils into 8 different categories. So first category is alluvial soils. So when we talk about this alluvial soils, so when we talk about these alluvial soils, so how these are formed and where they are located. Okay, so when we talk about the formation of these alluvial soils, so they are actually deposited by the rivers, particularly originating from the Himalayas. Okay, so when we talk about these Himalayan rivers, for example, the Ganga, Indus River and the Brahmaputra River, so they are actually carry the sediments into the soils, right? So sediments into the plains, the alluvial plains. Okay, so they are being deposited by rivers, particularly originating from the Himalayas. So what was the composition? They actually contains clay, sand and silt particles. So this is the essential composition of the alluvial soil. See, when we talk about different soils, we very often knew that alluvial soils are mostly found in the Indo-Gangetic plains. Okay, so the composition of the alluvial soils is clay, sand and silt particles, and in fact it is one of the rich and fertile ground of India, and the alluvial soils are very fertile in nature. So most of these alluvial soils are found in different parts of India. We'll discuss that later. So what are the major characteristics of these alluvial soils? So they are highly fertile. Why they are highly fertile? Because they have the mineral composition such as adequate potash, lime and the phosphoric acid. So because of these minerals, the alluvial soils are very often fertile. So after that we need to talk about the types of these alluvial soils. So when we talk about the types of alluvial soils, the old alluvial soil is known as Bangar and new alluvium soil is known as Khadar. Okay, so this is very important. Just remember this. The old alluvium soil, so that was deposited by the rivers, but it was an old alluvium soil and that was known as Bangar, and the new alluvium soil is known as Khadar. And where these alluvium soils are mostly located across India? So as I've already told you, northern plains, particularly the Indo-Gangetic plains, from Punjab to West Bengal, Bihar, parts of Jharkhand and UP, Uttarakhand, so all those regions. And apart from that, in Assam also, because of the Brahmaputra river, and delta regions of Mahanadi, Kaveri, Godavari and the Krishna rivers. So these are the areas where we can found these alluvial rivers. And the major crops which are being grown in these alluvial soils including wheat, maize, sugarcane, rice, pulses and oilseeds. So these are the major crops which are being cultivated in the alluvial soils. Now after that I will talk about another variety of soils which are black soils. So black soils are also very important, and these black soils support the cultivation of cotton, right? So black soils are also called with another name rigor soils. Okay, so they are also called with the other name rigor soils. So how they are being formed? So they are derived from the lava and volcanic rocks. So these black soils are mostly found in parts of Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat and Maharashtra also. Now what is the major composition of this black soils? The composition of these black soils include, they are very rich in potash, lime, magnesium carbonate and even the calcium carbonate also. So this is the composition of the black soils. And location, when we talk about the location, as I have already told you that these black soils are predominantly found in few states across India. So they include Gujarat, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. And in fact, these are the states which are very famous for the cultivation of cotton, because black soil are able to retain the moisture, so therefore they support the growth and cultivation of the cotton crops. Now, what are the characteristics? High moisture retention capability of these black soils and also their water holding capacity. So these are two important characteristics of black soil, and black soil supports the cultivation of cotton, wheat, millet and tobacco crops. Now next, a very important soils, they are known as peaty soils. Now what are these peaty soils? Marshy soils. They are also called as marshy lands or marshy soils. Now what are these peaty soils? Remember, this classification or categorization is given by Indian Council of Agriculture Research, right? So what are these peaty soils? They are formed by accumulation of organic matter in humid climates or excessive rainfall, heavy rainfall, or so they are being formed by the accumulation of organic matter in a one particular area. So what is the general composition of these peaty soils? So they have a very high organic matter, lower potash and the phosphatic content also. Okay, so they are located in few districts. Okay, so few locations, for example in Kerala, for example the backwaters of Kerala, where we can see these peaty soils, and the coastal areas of Tamil Nadu, Bihar, Uttaranchal and Sundarbans of West Bengal. See, Sundarbans of West Bengal are very famous for these marshy soils or the peaty soils, where we can found these Sundarban mangrove forest, right? So these are the areas where we can find these peaty soils. Now when we talk about the characteristics of these peaty soils, so they are very acidic and they are also black in the soil is also black in color, and the organic matter is very high in content in these peaty soils. The organic content of the peaty soils ranges from 10% to 40%. And after that, another category of soils are saline and alkaline soils, right? So how these saline and alkaline soils are being formed? So they are actually formed in certain conditions or certain regions where the soils actually have the higher sodium content and higher potassium content and magnesium content, and along with these minerals, heavy concentration of these minerals, those soils also have a poor drainage and also they have a dry climate. So this is how the soils are being formed. And when we talk about the location of the these saline and alkaline soils, so they are mostly located in arid and semi-arid areas of few states, particularly Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, Haryana and Maharashtra. So these are the areas where these alkaline soils are located. So what are the major characteristics of saline and alkaline soils? So the major characteristics include high salt content, calcium and the nitrogen deficiency also. So these are the characteristics. See, remember, these characteristics are also very important from the examination point of view or the exam perspective. So just remember these characteristics of different soils. So how can we improve these saline and alkaline soils? So remember one thing, that saline and alkaline soils are very often don't support the cultivation of a wide variety of crops. Okay, so soil salinity in India is also one of the major problem that leads to the degradation of the soils. So therefore, how can we bring improvements in the saline and alkaline soils? Through enhanced irrigation, drainage and application of gypsum and cultivation of salt resistant crops. So all these improvements can be made in these soils to improve the to bring them under cultivation. So when we talk about the suitability of the crops which can be cultivated in the improved saline and alkaline soils, the leguminous crops can be cultivated. Now remember, when we talk about these leguminous crops, so these leguminous crops can be able to fix nitrogen, and they can also significantly improve the soil fertility, and they reduce the impact of salinity and alkalinity of these soils. And after that, another very important soil type is red soils. Now how these red soils are being formed? So these red soils are being formed by weathering of metamorphic rocks and igneous rocks and high in content. Now when we talk about different types of rocks, there are three types of rocks. I hope all of you know about these three types of rocks: igneous rocks, metamorphic rocks and sedimentary rocks, right? So these red soils are being formed with the weathering, okay, so gradual erosion of both metamorphic rocks and igneous rocks, and very often these red soils are red in color because of high iron content. right? So even if you look at the Mars planet, so this is also red in color because of the high iron content in the soil of the Mars. Okay, so when we talk about the locations where this red soil is being found, so it includes different states, parts of Karnataka, Orissa, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. So these are the different regions where these red soils are widely found. Now the characteristics of red soil include, they are very rich in potash content, they are sandy and clay texture, and they are also deficient in nitrogen, phosphate and humus. So the color of these red soils is red due to iron oxide content. And when we talk about these red soils, so these red soils are also known as laterite soil or mountainous soils. So the crops which are being cultivated in red soils include mango, cashew. So these crops are being cultivated in the red soil regions. And after that, there are also desert soils. So what are these desert soils? For example, we have a Thar desert, right? So that is one of the major desert that we have in India. So how these are formed? So these desert soils have a high sand content of 90 to 95%, and they also have a low clay content and very often have a low rainfall, because if you look at the arid and semi-arid regions of Gujarat and Rajasthan, they receive near about less than 25 centimeters of annual rainfall. So they are signified by low amounts of rainfall. So where they are located, so the location is also very important. So they are primarily located in Rajasthan, Rann of Kutch of Gujarat and parts of Haryana and Punjab, and this is where these desert soils are located. And what are the major characteristics? So they have a very low water holding capacity and high phosphate content also, right? So they have a high phosphate content but low water holding capacity. Now when we talk about the vegetation of these soils, so they are mostly found in these desert soils. The plants which we very often see include cactus, shrubs, and the fertility of these desert soils can be increased temporarily by rainfall and even bringing those lands under the irrigation infrastructure, so that we can significantly improve the fertility of those soils. We can also bring them under cultivation. And after that, the laterite soils also. So this is another variety of soils. So when we talk about these laterite soils, so these laterite soils are being formed in areas where there is a heavy rainfall. For example, the areas near the equator. Okay, so there where there is a high or heavy rainfall and sedimentation of rocks and high or iron oxide content. So this is where the laterite soils are being formed. And when we talk about the locations of these laterite soils, so Western and Eastern Ghats, Vindhya and Malwa Plateau and Satpura, right? So Western Ghats, which receives highest rainfall, and the parts of Eastern Ghats also receive some extent greatest rainfall, and Vindhya Malwa Plateau of Madhya Pradesh and even the Satpuras of Madhya Pradesh have these laterite soils. So the characteristics of laterite soils include, they are pink in color and they have a high in nitrogen. They are very high in nitrogen and acidic in nature. The suitable crops for these laterite soils include rubber, coconut, coffee, cashew nuts, sugar, ragi and rice. So these are the wide variety of crops which are being cultivated in these laterite soils. So after that, there is another variety of soil which are being mountain soil. So mountain soil are accumulation of organic matter from the forest growth, right? So whenever there are a forest and whenever there is a higher rainfall, so there is a less chance of decomposition of the existing organic matter. Okay, so the decaying process or degradation process is decomposition process is very slow in those regions whenever there is a higher rainfall. So therefore it happens that the organic matter accumulates because of the slow decomposition process. So when we talk about the major locations of these soils, they mostly located in Himalayan regions, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, peninsular India, Eastern Ghats and Assam. So these are the regions where these mountain soils are mostly located. And when we talk about their characteristics, they are very rich in humus content. Okay, so the next a very important article is about the women in politics. We all knew that recently 18th Lok Sabha elections or general elections concluded, and the 18th Lok Sabha election results were also declared. And in this particular article, we'll be discussing about the women participation or the number of women candidates who have contested this elections in the 18th Lok Sabha, and now how many of those women candidates actually won this election. So we'll be discussing that in a very detailed manner. So context is that recently the parliament has provided 33% of the women representation in the parliament and state legislative assembly. Okay, so has long been is subject to debate, because earlier also there were attempts by the union government to introduce this 33% reservation bill in the parliament. However, that was not passed, but recently the union government has introduced 33% reservation in the Lok Sabha, and it has also passed. Our president gave his assent to this particular bill. However, this 33% reservation for women will be implemented only after the delimitation will be done. The new delimitation of the constituencies will be done. This 33% reservation for women will be applicable. Okay, so however, when we talk about the reality of women participation in India, it is underrepresentation of women, right? So women are underrepresented in parliament and state legislative assemblies also, because according to some data, in recent 18th Lok Sabha general elections, only 13% of the women MPs are elected. So that 13% of women MPs are being elected, it is a significant decline in the previous 2019 election. So this has been indicating a negative trend where the women representation has been declining over a period of time. Now, so it clearly indicates there is a gender disparity with respect to the elected representatives between men and women. Okay, so despite there are a lot of provisions for the reservation of women, not lot of provisions, but recently introduced this 33% of the reservation for women. So despite such provisions, and in fact there were a number of attempts from the different governments since independence, the women representation in parliament is almost stagnant, and it is not increasing, and that is a cause of concern, right? So because the politics is being seen as a male dominated field where women have no chance of either contesting or winning the elections. Okay, so number of women who are contesting the elections and winning elections is significantly lower than their male counterparts in India, because in the 18th Lok Sabha, only 73 out of 543 elected representatives are women, right? Only 73 are women, and it is a significantly low number. However, women have been facing a number of challenges when it comes to contesting elections and even winning elections also. So this particular disparity between men and women is being indicating the gender gap that was existed, because in these general elections so far 797 candidates are women out of 8,337 candidates who have contested the elections. So 8,337 candidates contested elections, and out of this number only 797 are women candidates. So now this has also been pointing out towards the fact that the political parties are also not ready to give or to encourage the women participation, right? However, there is a marginal increase in the number of women candidates from the previous elections. However, the total number of the candidates remain disproportionately low. So that is a cause of concern. Now, when we talk about the women's participation in the political matters, and when we rank all the countries, India's ranking is significantly lower, because we have a very poor women participation in the political arena. So recent global ranking for women's representation in the lower house of parliament dropping to 148 out of 185 countries. Okay, so there are number of factors which are hindering women's inclusion in politics. So what are those factors which are actually hindering women's participation? Okay, so gender stereotypes perpetuate the notion that the politics is a male dominated sphere, deterring women from actively participating in the political processes. So secondly, lack of political networks and connections for women. Now when we talk about the political connections and networks, now still the society perceiving women as a they are just confining themselves to four walls of a kitchen or domestic sphere, also looking after the household chores. Okay, so there's a lack of political networks and connections often pose significant barriers for women aspiring to enter politics, as access to influential circles remains significantly lower for the women. Now after that, they also have the financial difficulties. Now when we are contesting elections, the expenditure is disproportionately very high in elections, right? So the financial strains and resource constraints are further hindering women's ability to contest elections, as the cost of campaigning and mobilizing support can be prohibitively very high or significantly very high. Now after that, there is also a limited political education and awareness among the women, and that has been further marginalizing their participation in the politics, because many of the women lack knowledge and skills to be able to contest election, to win the election, right? So when they have adequate knowledge and skills, they would be able to navigate the complexities in the electoral politics also. So these are some of the factors which are being hindering women's participation in elections. However, there are certain schemes to promote women empowerment or women participation in the electoral process. So first and foremost, we need to talk about National Commission for Women. So it was established in 1992. So this is a statutory body, and this particular statutory body was established to protect the women interests, right? So the National Commission for Women, established in 1992, and this statutory body has the responsibility of monitoring and at the same time addressing the issues which are related to women's rights and women's welfare, and even they recommend policy matters to the central government when it concern to the woman. Okay, so it would also include or enhances women's political representation in the process. Okay, so after that, a reservation for women is also being provided. Now we have discussed that 33% reservation for women are being provided by the union government recently, but before this 33% reservation in parliament and state legislative assemblies, the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992 already provided 1/3 of the reservation of seats for women in the local bodies, both panchayats and the municipalities. So therefore, this has been aimed at significantly enhancing the participation of women in the grassroots democracy. Now, you just remember that the 73rd Constitutional Amendment, which has provided reservation for the women. So after that, Women's Reservation Bill 2023. So this Women Reservation Bill 2023 is a landmark legislation that seeks to reserve 1/3 of the seats for women in the parliament, Lok Sabha, now not parliament, especially the Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies, for women. So therefore, this will also ensure that there will be greater representation from women, and that would also enhances the inclusivity of the representation process, and at the same time reduces the gender disparities and gender inequality. So that would also help women or the society shed the age-old stereotypes and stigmas associated with the capacity of women. So after that, another very important article is World's Largest Grain Storage Plan. So what was this world's largest grain storage plan? So we'll briefly understand the context of this. The National Level Coordination Committee, this is also known as NLCC, for the world's largest grain storage plan, recently held in a maiden meeting of Ministry of Cooperation, right? So you see, India, with the largest population of 142 crore, India is the largest populous country. So therefore, since it is the largest populous country, and in fact India is a country with a significant number of poor people living below poverty line, so therefore it is very important to provide food grains and ensure food security for the significant number of population. So in fact, the National Food Security Act of 2013, under this particular National Food Security Act of 2013, around 80 crore people are being provided food grains under the public distribution system, right? So recent COVID-19 pandemic also, the central government has provided food grains free of cost to all the eligible beneficiaries. Now, in order to ensure food security for all eligible population, we should have a food grain storage network. So this food grain storage network should be a robust storage network. So in order to make sure that we'll be able to provide food security and adequate amount of food grains to all the population, the central government decided to build world's largest food grain storage plan. Okay, so this pilot project of food grain storage actually aims to enhance the agriculture infrastructure at the grassroots level. Okay, now grassroots level essentially comes the village level and the block level. So therefore we'll enhance the agriculture infrastructure at the grassroots level. So how we'll enhance the agriculture infrastructure at the grassroots level? By building warehouses and by building processing units, fair price shops in primary agricultural cooperative societies. And apart from that, it will also integrate several existing government schemes, because for improving or enhancing the agricultural productivity, the government has come up with several schemes earlier. So those schemes include agricultural infrastructure fund, and this agriculture infrastructure fund is managed by NABARD, National Bank for rural agriculture and rural development. So after that, the agriculture market and infrastructure scheme, submission on agricultural mechanization, Pradhan Mantri formalization of micro food processing enterprises scheme, right? So this particular world's largest food grain storage plan integrates all these government programs. However, when we talk about the implementing agencies of this world's largest grain storage plan pilot project, so they include National Cooperative Development Corporation. So this will receive support from NABARD. And apart from that, the Food Corporation of India and Central Warehousing Corporation and NABARD Consultancy Services in coordination with the central state governments and the union territories. So all these are implementing agencies of the world's largest grain storage plan in cooperative sector. Okay. Now, what is the need of such an initiative? Why we need such an initiative? Okay, so now if you look at the overall scenario of Indian agriculture, India holds around 11% of the total cultivable area. So remember, this data is very important for your examination, right? So India as of now holds 11% of total cultivable area. Okay, so that is 16 crore hectare out of the 138 crore hectare. Now across the world, 138 crore is the total cultivable area, and out of 138 crore, India holds around 16% of the 16 hectares of the total cultivable area. So that is 11% of the total cultivable area. And apart from that, India has around 18% of the global population. Now global population is as of now is 790 crore. So India's population is around 140 or above. Okay, so however, when we talk about India's total food grain production, it is 311 million metric tons. So this is the total food production in India per year. So however, when we talk about this total storage capacity in India, it is just 145 million metric tons. Now you can clearly imagine the deficit that we are producing 311 million metric tons of food grains, but food grain storage is just 145 million metric tons. So therefore there is a shortage of around 166 million metric tons in storage capacity. So in order to meet the storage of this 166 million metric tons of storage capacity, so we are building world's largest food grain storage project. However, when we compare India with the other countries, so other countries have the surplus of 131% of the food grain storage, despite a lower food grain production, but India faces a deficit of around 47% in the storage capacity, because when we have the adequate storage capacity, we can use such food grains whenever we face any hard or difficult times such as famines or lack of rainfall, and we can also reduce the inflation levels in the food. So therefore all these are the benefits of building world's largest food grain network. Okay, so that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. Please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button, and thank you so much.